Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it and we'll talk about it inside. Scrappers, Tom here. Today is March 29th and we have 2-3 days left in the first quarter, so we're wrapping things down. So we'll go over some of the things that have happened in the last few months, and I'll talk about some of the things that are going on. Another cool thing that we're going to be doing towards the end of this weekly report, we're going to start having Tom's scrap story of the week. I'm going to tell you some of the things that have happened to me over the years. It might not be a story that helps you make money, but you're obviously interested in scrap because you're here right now. So we're going to talk about some scrap stories so I can share some of the experiences that I have had in the past. So what's going on in the markets? Copper's flat. I mean, that's a good thing. I'm looking at some of my prices. We're up 1.5% week over week, but that's only like 5 cents or so. So that's a flat market week over week. I'm really happy with that. That shows that the market's had a really strong sign of stability. And moving forward, we want a stable market, especially with some of the changes in pricing up and down we've had the last few months. So, we did see some scrap prices going down earlier this year on copper, but with the increase over the last few months, that was really good. Now, something that was really interesting that I read that I wanted to share with you were some predictions and forecasts for the rest of this year and then 2024 and 2025. So some of these predictions and forecasts were through Goldman Sachs, so a very large bank that has arms in really what seems like everywhere when it comes to finance and commodities. And here's what they said. By the end of 2023, in the near term, they're expecting copper prices to hit $10,500 per ton. So to give you an idea, right now we're right around $9,200 per ton, which is $4.06 when it comes to trading. So they're predicting that by the end of this year, we're going to hit 10,500, which is about a copper market of $4.70. So when we have our recommendations of holding or selling materials, here's one of the market predictions that we follow from Goldman, talking about an increase of about 60-70 cents by the end of this year. Now that's interesting, but here's what I thought was more interesting. They were saying inside of the article that I read that the shortfall of copper over the next 2 to 3 years is so great that they're predicting copper prices could rise to $15,000 per ton. Now, I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud. That's $6.70 a pound. So for those of you that are out there that are like, I'm going to hold on to my copper. Now, again, these are just predictions, right? You never know what's going to happen, whether it's a recession, a war, an oversupply, a strike at a copper mine, all things that can affect the markets, right? But with the electrification of the markets, moving away from fossil fuels and towards more renewable energies, again, whether you like it or not, they still need copper because it's happening, right? Whether it's Tesla making more cars, needing more copper for those harnesses, the computers, whether it's the solar panels being made and installed, whether it's the turbines going on top of mountains in fields or inside of the ocean, right? They're going to need copper. So they're saying that by 2025, that there is a real chance of the copper price hitting $15,000 per ton, which is $6.70 a pound. Talk about scary high numbers. And you might be saying, Tom, why is that scary? That's really high. Well, when prices go up, i.e. catalytic converters over the last couple of years, what happens? Theft goes up. Laws change. So these are things that we try to keep in mind when it comes to the copper prices. But let's go all the way back to a few minutes ago, week over week for March 2023. 1.5% increase, strong copper markets. We see a lot of people posting prices online, the tongue twister. But really, markets are doing really well. Yellow brass in the $1.90 to $2.10 range. I actually saw one price reported at over $2.20. So really strong numbers there. Bronze in the $2.30 to $2.50 range. So really strong prices overall when it comes to some of these red metals. And of course, with copper prices being strong, things like Romex, HHN and regular wire, anything that has to do with copper, those prices have gone up. What else has gone up week over week? Aluminum up over 5% on the trading side of things, but the articles that we're reading are showing that a lack of demand has started to lower some of the scrap prices because there's an oversupply of aluminum at some of the domestic mills. And domestic mills means that aluminum mills inside of the United States have an oversupply of aluminum, which has caused some of the scrap prices to go down. But overall, we did see aluminum prices trading 5% higher week over week. That's a really big jump. Think about gas prices. If it was $3 last week, that means it would be $3.15 a gallon today. 15 cents is a big hike. You would notice something like that opposed to a couple cent change. What else is going on? Nickel markets up 4.9% week over week. We saw some people commenting on YouTube talking about some of the stainless prices. One gentleman mentioned that he got 40 cents a pound for 304 stainless. Really nice to see those prices jumping up. Nickel prices should be higher than they are compared to the demand, and we're just not seeing that, but hopefully we'll start to see those supplies kind of tighten themselves up. Increased demand for nickel is another good thing, especially as some of these battery makers are starting to move away from lithium and towards more metals like nickel and cadmium. They're going to use those. Cobalt is another one. And the higher increased demand will increase the price and then increase the scrap price on the other side as they look to be able to have that recycling process kick itself in, opposed to mining that raw ore. Now, something I want to talk about, over the last week or so, the Russian president and the Chinese president got together in Russia to talk about their agreements and their kind of trade alliances. Well, why is that important to scrap? If the Russians, who have really been blacklisted from many countries in the world, start selling more commodities that they're mining out of Russia to China, right, that's going to increase the supply of the metals market. So if Russia starts selling more materials like copper and nickel and specialty alloys to the Chinese, who have not condemned the Ukrainian invasion, that shows that the pricing on the metals could start to go down. Now, these were 3 days of meetings that happened last week, so nothing has started to flow. But if we do start to see the flow of metals from Russia into China, that could cause the prices to go down. And ultimately, even as the U.S. blacklisted Russia, we might start to be buying Russian metals through Chinese-made products. So these are things that, again, affect the scrap market, and that could affect them in a downward trend. But again, it hasn't happened yet, but we're watching for it. Same thing goes for aluminum, as Russia produces a lot of bauxite, which is the aluminum ore, essentially. Catalytic converter side of things, relatively unchanged. Platinum down 2.5%, palladium down less than 1%, and rhodium up a little over 1%. So again, when I see a 1 to 3% price change week over week, to me, that's flat. So sometimes you might read the reports and I might say, copper prices are even when technically trading wise, they're up a point or so. That to me is even. To me, price movement starts at 3% and above. So between 1, 2, and 3%, that's kind of a normal movement week over week. Once you go over 3%, that's when you start to have big discrepancies, whether they're down or up. That's when the prices really start to change. So those prices are there. Gold prices up. We saw gold hit over a 1-year high the other day. It hit over $2,000 an ounce. That had to do with some of the banking turmoil that you may have seen through the news. Some of these banks in New York and California that had some issues that generally pushes investors towards more safe harbors. Gold and platinum are two examples of where investors will push money into. Now, steel prices. What's gone on with the steel market? Really, again, relatively flat. Did we see some decreases over the last 2 days in prices? Yes, we saw some announcements going into April about a $5 to $10 per ton decrease. But I don't take that too heavily because in the month of March, we had like $50 to $70 in upticked prices. So having a small pullback of $5 to $10 per ton, again, that's kind of comparing to like the 1% copper change. I don't really take a lot of that into effect. And I really do continue to say move your steel as you get it, because that's just going to allow you to move those metals, really push them out of your yard. And I know I look at a lot of people's pictures, whether they're on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, where scrappers post a lot of their pictures. You guys aren't really saving steel, right? I mention it because you might want to know about it. You might want to save rotors or something like that. We have a couple of customers at Rockaway Recycling that have some 55-gallon drums. They fill them with rotors. They bring the rotors in the drum. We pick it up with a forklift, and then we give them a replacement drum. That may be you saving material. So just think about that. And those customers have an easier time getting those into their trucks. Guess what they use? They use engine machines where they normally would pick like the engine hoists. I don't know the proper name. It's not like it's a crane, but they use engine hoists. And they are able to pick that barrel up and either put it on their trailer or put it in the back of their truck. So that's just an idea for you to be able to save rotors. They're small, they're heavy. A 55-gallon drum could be 1,300 pounds. That's just one idea because it's dense. When you have things that are dense, you can fit them into one barrel and then maximize your profit out of it. So, that's another thing going on with the market. So let's talk about some stories. I have lots and lots of stories that I can tell for scrap. So let me tell you a story that happened years ago that was really interesting. There's a big facility in my area, New Jersey, that was closing down. Demolition was taking place, and a gentleman sent me some pictures. Now, when I saw these pictures, we're talking back in 2007, 2008. So I had no smartphone at the time. So he emailed me some pictures with a classic snap camera. And what I saw kind of shocked me. This building that was getting demoed was made in the 1910s and the 1920s. Underneath, they had a series of tunnels that connected all the buildings. And at the time, it was the largest connected single structure in America until the Pentagon was made. It was called Greystone. Now, Greystone, a lot of it got demoed years ago. And I never had the chance to visit it. But while it was getting demoed, I got a chance to bid on a bunch of the items. Now, nowadays, water pipes are made in cast iron, right? They're about 6-8-inch cast iron ductile pipes, I believe that they're called. These pipes were made out of bronze. So back in the 1910s, the 1920s, commodity prices were so different than they are nowadays. They used bronze to make not only the water pipes, but the sewage pipes as well. And then here's the craziest thing that I have never seen since: manhole covers made out of bronze. The water I forget what it's the grates, the water grates where all the water would flow into.
Drains.
The drains, thank you. The drains were made out of bronze. So that shows you that at the time when this was built, metal prices were so different than they are today that they were making a lot of these water pipes out of bronze opposed to steel. Now that kind of changed over years as the prices started to become more expensive, as the processes to make steel pipe became better. They made more and more of it out of steel. But I saw 8-inch wide bronze pipes. And it was so crazy to see. I only got a little bit of the scrap at the time, but it was so cool because not only were they having bronze pipes, they had crystal doorknobs, and I believe they were Swarovski crystal doorknobs on top of brass. So you had a brass doorknob, a real brass one. There was no steel mechanisms inside, with the Swarovski crystal to turn the door. And that was all the doors in the facilities. So when I started to see these pictures, one of the questions I asked was, are those like glass handles? And he said, essentially, yes, they were made out of crystal, right, which is glass. So back in the early 1900s, 10s, 20s, 30s, materials were so different that they made everything the best of because they didn't have the huge price discrepancies that we had today. So I got to see those bronze pipes, and since then, the biggest bronze pipe I've seen was maybe an inch. And a lot of the older areas in New Jersey were made with yellow and red brass pipes back then because they were just cheaper, and that's just what they use because they knew they were going to last. Since then, I haven't seen many of those, especially as copper has come in and PEX has come in. So that's my scrap story of the week. We'll continue to do it. Let us know what you think about those. But week over week, solid pricing, solid scrap markets. I love seeing your comments. I try to answer all of them on there. So any questions for us, let us know. If you're looking for even more information because you're a serious scrapper or you're looking to do it more full time, become a YouTube member of our channel where members get videos that no one else has. So check out, we have some examples in the past that we've posted for what we put on there. So check out our videos. And until next week, scrappers, today is March 29th, 2023, and I'll scrap you later.
Thanks for checking out this scrap video. For more exclusive scrap video content, please become a YouTube member of our channel today. Thank you, and I'll scrap you later.